Another kind of mind turnarounder is the use of affirmations instead of affirmations. So affirmations are like, I am healthy, I am healthy, I am healthy. And then your mind says, no, you're not, no, you're not. So there's a little bit of a battle. But if you say it often enough, an affirmation does take root, right? So it does work. But affirmation is when you put in the form of a question.
You found the Real Estate Law Podcast. Because real estate is more than just pretty pictures, and law goes well beyond the paperwork and courtroom arguments. If you're a real estate professional or looking to build real estate expertise, then welcome to the conversation and discover more at realestatelawpodcast.com.
Welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Law Podcast. My name is Rory Gill. I'm a real estate attorney and real estate broker operating out of Massachusetts. And I'm really excited for our conversation today because we are going to discuss kind of the most important thing in your business, and that is yourself, your mindset, and really what you can do to get out of your own way to realize the success you have. So today we're speaking with Blaine Oelkers. He is the Chief Results Officer. He can be your Chief Results Officer, and he's also in charge of Selfluence, masterminds of many professionals out there who are looking to improve upon themselves and instill good habits along the way. So Blaine, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Roy, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit today and maybe help a few of the listeners, to kind of increase their own power. I call it Selfluence, which is the art and science of influencing yourself, or kind of the power you already have to influence yourself. You don't need anything new. You don't need any fancy softwares or apps or anything. That 3-pound tool at the top of your head is all you need. And most people know how to do stuff. They're just not focused on it in the right way. So it's kind of fun to share and help entrepreneurs. And primarily I do work with attorneys, real estate agents, dentists, professionals, and those kinds of people. And I've been doing it for a long time. So I hope I can add a little value today.
Thank you. And I mean, what you're introducing there is really the core of it all. I think it's pretty easy in these professions when there are kind of limitless choices and limitless opportunities for us to kind of pare down and think about the essentials. When met with other people in the past, often these discussions get a little bit safer and simpler when we talk about the specific tools that we could be using instead. Shiny object syndrome comes in, and we were looking for that silver bullet that could really tie everything together. But you're talking about using what people already have to improve upon themselves. Introduce that a little bit more. Tell us, who you're working with and what your mission is with those people.
Yeah, so I had a few moments of dawning comprehension, where, the light bulb goes off and you're never quite the same again. And so for me, the first one happened in college. Went to and graduated from Purdue University. And while I was there, kind of maybe like some of the listeners, I've always been a seeker of knowledge, right? I always how could I do better? How could I improve? And I saw this ad. And it was for an audio cassette tape. So kind of dating myself here. It was in the 80s. Some people might not even know what an audio cassette tape is. But anyway, it's a little audio program and you put in your Sony Walkman and listen to it. But I sent away, and it was for kind of an abridged version, a reading of this book called Think and Grow Rich. And it was actually read by this guy, Earl Nightingale, who ended up becoming one of my mentors. Anyway, I got the tape, I listened to it, and then I bought the book and I read the book. And my moment of dawning comprehension was this realization, and I made a little phrase, what you think about, you bring about. And so it was the realization that my thoughts plus action, like what you think about, you bring it about, but my thoughts were really the thing that was shaping my life. And then later, a second mentor, actually my favorite mentor is this guy named Jim Rohn. He said, it's not what happens that determines your life future. It's what you do about what happens. And so the dawning comprehension moment was that my life is being shaped by the lens that I'm looking through, which is really my thoughts. And so what you think about, you bring about. You could think a thought that you're thirsty and you go get a drink of water, or you could think a thought that you want to see a movie. So you find out, okay, when's the movie playing? Who could I go with, right? You bring that stuff about. And so I started doing that kind of with bigger and bigger things. And I had a bunch of success. I met my wife in college. We've been married 30 years now. I had some good business success. And then the second moment kind of dawning comprehension for me, my degree's in computer science. I came back from this business trip. And then my son, Bo, he was kind of like giving me the cold shoulder. And I said, Beth, like, what is Bo sick? Like, what's wrong? She goes, no, you were gone so long. He kind of forgot who you were. And I was like, oh man, that like hit me like hard emotionally. So I made this clarifying decision that night that I would be a work from home dad. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I made this clarifying decision. I had this emotional resolve to really go do that. And so it took me a year, started a couple of businesses. That was a really hard year on the marriage, starting some businesses, keeping my full-time job. But a year later, I did break free. And so when I broke free, that was 27 years ago. So I was kids are out of the nest now, but I was, and I still am this work from home guy. But what happened is that moment, again, I got into the white table, what you think about, you bring about, I was just, totally focused on being able to work from home, but being able to work from home and owning my own business, that gave me the freedom to start to figure this self-development stuff out, but also the freedom to do we could talk about some exercises people could use to figure out, like, why am I here? Like, what is the purpose for my life? And when I figured that out, which for me is to help people take control of their lives by taking control of themselves, I founded in 2009 this company called Selfluence, which we talked about before. And that really, to me, is the essence of people taking control of their lives by taking control of themselves, and really that everything you need is within reach. You're already doing it. And if you decide, you could master it. One framework I have is called the 21-second habits, how to create new habits in 21 seconds, not 21 days. Or the 30-minute hour. I have good names for stuff. The 30-minute hour, how to get an hour's worth of stuff done in just 30 minutes, where you can kind of compress time. And then maybe hacking your head trash, which again, as you move forward, that holds a lot of people down. Limiting beliefs, self-doubt, some of that monkey mind chatter. So anyway, that's a big, long introduction there to that. But anyway, I started working with some mastermind groups, and they called me the Chief Results Officer. And I like that. I went to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. No one was using it. I got the registered trademark, the R with the circle. And so now I am America's only Chief Results Officer, doing what I think I'm born to do, and that's help people.
Well, you are great at naming things. Everything is kind of catchy and kind of illustrates its purpose and where we're going with it. Kind of the core of what you discuss, your materials that I've read, is the white table principle. And let me start and give some practical grounding to the first half of that, what you think about. What are some of those beliefs that people have, examples or just ideas that either positive and they can help promote results, or are self-limiting beliefs?
Yeah, I think, I heard this great quote once. When you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. And so, unfortunately, many of us have, programming, past experiences that are, become very limiting, and they call them limiting beliefs, right? I'm too old. I'm too this. I'm too that. I'm not enough this. I'm not enough that, and sometimes there's a fear of success, of getting too successful or of not being successful. So there's lots of different kind of negative and limiting beliefs that can hold you back, right? That can hold you back. And so now on the flip side of that, there are podcasts like this one. There are mentors, there are books like Think and Grow Rich and people like Earl Nightingale and Jim Rohn, that can lift you up. That could be your mentor, right? That can, move you forward. So it's kind of, Napoleon Hill describes it as the stream of life, and the stream is in two directions. There's kind of a negative and a positive. And the key is to get in that positive stream and then stay there for as long as you possibly can. And so what I like to do is to help people. Everybody has the voice of doubt and the limiting beliefs, and I have them as well. Now, they used to be a lot louder, and now they're kind of in the corner, and I can keep them under control. But what I like to do is help people to, when they have the limiting belief, to as quickly as possible, flip it and get the brain working for them, not against them. That's number one, is to quickly flip away from the negative. And then the second part is then to pour in the positive to kind of stay ahead of it, right? So let's go through maybe a couple of practical examples. One very simple one is what I call the yeah, but. So when you have a limiting belief or you hear something negative from yourself or other people, so you can yeah, but yourself, or you can yeah, but other people, but the idea is you just say yeah, but at the end of that thing. I'll give you an example, and then let your mind start to go to work for you instead of against you, right? So you commonly business owners say, I don't have enough time. I never have enough time. Now, when you say I never have enough time, then your brain says you never have enough time, and it goes to look for examples to show you you don't have enough time because you have this to do and that to do and this, and you're a parent and you're a business owner and you're blah 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 blah. You're done for. I don't have enough time. I never have enough time. Yeah, but I control my schedule. Yeah, but I can hire, a nanny. Yeah, but I can delegate more. Yeah, but, and you begin to find the answers by yeah, butting. And it's a quick shift of the mind there to kind of flip it on its other side. So that I think is very helpful. Sometimes, if you're kind of thinking about something, you can also use the word yet. I don't have enough time yet. Mm-hmm. So that's another kind of very quick, easy way to kind of turn your mind around. Another kind of mind turnarounder is the use of affirmations instead of affirmations. So affirmations are like, I am healthy, I am healthy, I am healthy. And then your body, your mind says, no, you're not, no, you're not. So there's a little bit of a battle. But if you say it often enough, an affirmation does take root, right? So it does work. But affirmations, this guy, Noah St. John, came up with an affirmation is when you put in the form of a question and you say, why do I find it so easy to be healthy? Because, and now your mind starts to work, because you threw out the junk food, because you're getting your vitamin C, because you're exercising every day, because you're getting fresh air, because you're going for a walk, all these things, right? So you put in the form of question, why do I find it so easy to eat healthy, or to be healthy, right? Whatever the case may be. So that's affirmations. So let me kind of stop there before I go into kind of how you can kind of keep it positive, but just those are some ways of kind of flipping the mind quickly.
And I mean, I can immediately think of limiting beliefs that I've had or encountered along the way. And, the example you gave there is good, and it's difficult to shift that. But I can also think of, if I don't have enough time is kind of an external thing. You don't have enough resources, you don't have enough money, and you can counter that with some yeah buts. But I imagine there's a real challenge when it's a deeper identity. I'm not that kind of person that does this. I'm not a good speaker. I'm not as outgoing. Those sorts of self-limiting beliefs. When you're working with somebody, what are some strategies you have to really kind of crack those difficult self-limiting beliefs?
Yeah. So let's take that one, I'm not a good speaker, right? Yeah, but, and then something's going to trigger in your own mind. So you can, even for the deeper ones, you can use that, yeah, but I'm willing to get on podcasts. Yeah, but I'm willing to start a podcast. Yeah, but, I'm willing to, speak, at the Rotary Club or yeah, but I could join Toastmasters, right? So you begin to come up with those things. And then the affirmation, why do I find it so easy to be a good speaker? Because I read the books, because I did this, because I did that. Now, sometimes it's good to have a mentor, a peer, or someone that could jumpstart your yeah buts, right? Mm-hmm. Like I just did a whole bunch there about Toastmasters, and those are the things that came into my mind, right? So sometimes doing that with other people, it is key. Now, if you want to go deeper, yes, now you could start to ask yourself questions like, do I want to become a good speaker? Like, why do I want to become a good speaker, right? So why is a really powerful thing to begin to uncover, why are you avoiding that? Maybe it was something from your past, like maybe you were tongue-tied when you were a little kid, and that memory, is still, you've got to change that, right? And one of the nice things about our mind, and actually the last 5 years, brain science is off the charts. They can actually chemically see when you create a new thought now and measure it. But anyway, back into your mind is that your memories, can be changed by you kind of reliving them, but giving them different meaning. If you went back to that time, where you were tongue-tied as a kid or something like that, and you say, well, here's what I learned from that. And because of this, what did I learn from that? What is the good thing that I could see now? And you kind of reframe it, right? But then again, you can go back and do a little bit of the past work. But also what I like is, I like this strategy of kind of win early, win often. And so my thing would be, let's get some momentum. Let's get some speaking momentum. And now first say, why do you want this to become this person? And it's got to be strong enough. Like, you don't really want to be a speaker. Okay. Maybe you don't have to be a speaker. That's okay. If you want to be, then how do you step into that new identity? I'm a speaker, and do it. I like to win early, win often. And in that case, well, leaps and little steps both works. Like a big leap, I'm going to take a speaking boot camp, right? Jump right in. That's all the way. Big leap. Or just a little step is, you know what? I'm going to record a video for my mentor, for my friend. I'm going to start doing little videos to my friends. Then I'm going to step it up to a Facebook Live. Then I'm going to, become a podcast guest and join Podmatch, or, and just kind of take it up in little steps. And the nice thing about the little steps is that starts you in the direction. And then you see if it's like, wow, I'm really excited about that. I want to go forward, or, that's not for me. But, you can't steer a parked car, right? You got to be moving. And even if you're moving in the wrong direction, I prefer movement. So then we know if that's a road south. I like to say, why build a road south when you're headed north? And my wife is really good about saying, hey, road south. I'm like, hey, honey, I was thinking about doing road south, and it's not in alignment with where I really want to go. But anyway, so yes, there's some work you can do if it's a deeper thing, but those same tools work even on the deeper kind of identity stuff.
Yeah. So, you're kind of anticipating where I'm going with this too. And that's kind of the nexus of taking the mindset shift into practical action to, bring about the results. And I'm sure you could speak about this for hours and hours. In fact, you do. But, tell us some good tips for people, in addition to what you just said, of making some sustained habit changes that can make you bring about better results and make you a little bit more of an intentional person.
Yeah. So, we are creatures of habit. Biochemically, we are creatures of habit. And so now they've studied the neurons. And so when you create a habit, there's this mylation, this insulation that goes on the neurons that allows them to communicate faster and with less resistance, and also on automatic pilot. So I have a framework which I think would be fun to share with the listeners called 21-second habits, right? So how to create new habits in 21 seconds, not 21 days. Now, scientifically, with this mylation, it does take about 21 days for the beginning of a new habit to neurologically be there. And now they just, the latest study shows that it takes 63 days to actually wire the habit in your brain so that it can run on its own. But we're going to hack all that, and we're just going to go right to basically 21 seconds or instantaneously. And so remember what I said about Selfluence, though. The fact is that everything you need is within reach. You don't need anything else. You're already doing it, and you can master it. And so I often talk to people, or I'll even ask you, like, in the last 24 hours, Rory, have you brushed your teeth?
Of course I have.
Okay. And so how long have you had that habit of brushing your teeth?
Longer than I can remember.
Okay. So decades you've had that. So I want people to understand you're already a habit master. You know how to do this stuff. You know how to create new habits and how to stick with them. And so then I tell the story on how the 21-second habits came about for me. Was that my wife, Beth, luckily this is past tense, she used to have nearly daily migraine headaches. And so the doctor gave her this log, this like extensive headache log. What did you eat? What are the triggers? What's the weather like? What was the barometric pressure? And she could fill it out for 1-2 days. And then she'd forget to do it. Then she would lose it. Then she'd get frustrated. And she's having these migraines. So it was a bad situation. But one day I'm watching her brush her teeth. And, my wife is that, dentist recommended 2 minutes in the morning, 2 minutes at night. So there's 4 solid minutes. And I said, Beth, look, take your headache log, put it underneath the toothpaste and the toothbrush. And every time you brush your teeth, then fill it out. So basically here's the key. First key to the 21-second habits is habit linking. So she took this habit she couldn't do and she linked it to brushing her teeth. And she went 90 days in a row. She went from can't do it 2 or 3 days. So she went 90 days in a row, filling that thing out. And, anyway, got it to the doctors. And now she might have a migraine once every couple of months, which is fantastic. It's that low. So anyway, so habit linking, that's the first key, is to think about all these habits. You wake up in the morning, you get dressed, use all these habits that you could link your new habit to. And so I'll give you a second example because there's a couple of other keys to this. And so the second example is then I said, okay, I want to start some new habits myself, every single day. And so what I did is I said, okay, what is something that I do, without any willpower required every single morning? And it's my smartphone. I pick up my smartphone. Sometimes the alarm's going off there. And so I realized that I could have it linked. So I wanted to do this Bible app, but then I also want to take a mind shower every day. We talked about what is a preventative way to stay positive. And for me, people like physically wash their body every day, but I thought, I want to wash my mind out every day. I want to get the head trash out, social media, news, sometimes family, friends, there's a lot of head trash that I'm getting every day. And so I wanted to wash that out. And so what I did is I opened my iPhone. I moved all the apps off the homepage, and I just put those 2 apps on there. And then every single day when I open my phone, I have to do those 2 things before I'm allowed to see or touch any other apps on my phone. Now, this is the second key. So the first key is habit linking. The second key is urge surfing. So if you can have an urge, something that you have a strong desire for, that you can surf the energy and the desire to force you to do the habit, then it works out really well. So for me, what happens why do I open my phone first thing in the morning? Obviously, I want to check, I've got text messages. I want to check news, social media, what orders have come in, how's the bank account, all these different things I want to check. My son lives in Denmark. He usually texts during the night, and I see that icon and there's messages waiting for me, right? And so I surf that urge. And so that has worked for me. Today was day 1,717 days in a row that I've done that habit of the mind shower and the Bible app every single day. No problem. No willpower required. I'm opening that phone every day, and then I'm surfing that urge to make it happen. And then the last part is leverage. So you got linking, the habit linking, urge, surfing, and then leverage. And so you get leverage on yourself. You could use rewards, the carrot, right? The carrot. So if I do this new habit for 7 days, I'm going to buy the book I want. Or the stick, you could have some kind of penalty if you don't, if you fall off doing the habit. But also there's a natural leverage when you get 3 or 4 days in a row. There's a natural inclination by your mind to want to keep that habit. You don't want to break the chain. That's super powerful. And that framework can be used to create whatever new habits you want. I was working with an attorney recently, and her name's Anne, and she's like, Blaine, I know you always tell me next day planning is the most important thing. Like, never let a day end without planning the next one, is what I say. And I said, you're right. I said, are you, when you get up, do you have a plan? She goes, no, most days I don't have a plan. And I said, okay, Anne, what is something you do in the morning, every single morning? No willpower required. You don't even have to think about it. It happens. She says, I have a cup of coffee every day. I said, you make your own coffee? She goes, yeah, I have a machine. Da, da, da. I said, good. Go to the machine and put a pad of paper and a pen next to the machine. And in the morning, I want you to make the coffee, smell the coffee, get that urge to want to drink that coffee super high, but you can't take the first sip until you've made the list. Now, the list might just be 2 or 3 items that you have to do that day, or it could be a more extensive schedule, right? But you've got to start the list before you drink the coffee, right? And so for her, that made all the difference. She didn't have to think about it. And she created this new habit, linked it to an existing one, had the urge to surf. Really, she kept doing it because it helped her, have a much more kind of productive day.
It does. And so, under the principles of Selfluence, you can kind of use what you're already doing, what you already have, to instill, good habits going forward. Is there a role for external accountability in Selfluence, or is that something that you kind of discourage or leave outside of it?
No, it's a huge part. There's an accountability, and the accountability that you have with yourself is okay, but for most people, it's not great. And so external accountability in all the programs, the mastermind groups I work with, and in programs that I have for entrepreneurs, they all have an outside accountability component and encouragement component. So it's accountability mixed with encouragement is what people need. And so many, many more times likely to get something done if you have an outside accountability to someone else. And that can be an accountability buddy, partner. That could be a small group. Kind of the more public it is, if you declare it, on social media, something you're going to do, you have a much higher level of doneness to those things. And so you want to have some external accountability, 100%, and some kind of encouragement, both. And then again, back to this, kind of win early, win often. But you don't want to win all the time. And so there's a golden ratio of winning. Now it's different for different people. I initially learned about this. I was coaching my kids in tennis. And I realized that there was this magic ratio, and it turned out to be 70%, that I needed to make sure, both my son and daughter, that they were winning about 70%. Now, if they're winning more than that, like 90% of the time or more, they weren't learning anything. They were just going in and doing like a beat down on the opponent, and they didn't learn anything in that match, right? But on the flip side, if they were losing more than half their matches, there was a discouragement that came in that they'd be like, Dad, I don't want to do tennis anymore. I don't want to go to that tournament. And so I had to be really aware of that golden win ratio. And so if they're winning 90%, they're like, Dad, why do I have to play in this tournament like an age higher? I said, well, because it's time to learn, right? Or, Dad, why are we driving to Tucson to play in this tournament, that is going to be an easy one for me? Well, because I want to just build some more skills, right? So I had to have that. And so for you, you're going to have that ratio. For me, it's like 90%, like my daily to-do list, my goals. I like to hit them about 90%, but if I'm hitting them 100%, I know I'm not stretching. I know I'm not growing. And you learn more from losing than you do by winning. So it's important on a number of levels. It's important to realize that, because the failures are much more instructive typically than the big wins. So knowing that going in, and knowing that failure is okay and failure is a way to learn, is also key. But yes, accountability and encouragement from an outside source is imperative to your doneness.
And I know a lot of professionals, attorneys in small practice, you work with attorneys and dentists and other professionals that have a tendency to work by themselves. And this becomes a particularly lonely area for a lot of the professionals, but also a very difficult one where you are the only one holding yourself accountable to a large extent. And your success really hinges on your ability to hold yourself accountable for it. So these are some, really good tips. And if people were looking in these professions for, a little bit of help or external guidance or external accountability, where do you recommend they turn?
So a couple of things there. One is that you're 100% right. This business ownership, especially for attorneys and professionals, real estate professionals too, it can be very lonely. And a lot of times family and friends, they don't understand that stuff, right? So I would say a couple of things. One is, be sure to have a mentor. Now, if that mentor, could be someone like a Jim Rohn, and you're just being mentored through their books and their audio programs, but they're still there for you, right? So Jim Rohn, he's not with us anymore. He was my number one mentor, but he's on my smartphone. He's on my iPhone. I can hit a button and, I'm right there, and so I actually have I shared the stage with him one night, and in this 5-minute block, he said so much mind-blowing seminars in a sentence that's my go-to 5 minutes when I need it. So that's one, a mentor. Could be a real, a physical person mentor, right? Someone that's down the road a little bit for you, but still in your profession. So that's mentors one. And then a peer, right? Do you have a peer? Do you have somebody in the bar association, that you could have be accountable with that person and have some accountability and encouragement both. And then the next level would be a mastermind group, right? And so if people want to reach out to me, I can help you, show you some different mastermind groups specifically for, attorneys, where then you're in with like-minded people doing the same stuff, in a non-competitive way, right? All the masterminds make sure that it's not similar practice area, similar city. You got to make sure you feel comfortable. And so I would think that also I'd be happy to work with anybody that feels like they want to move up, and get some more results. And they think some clarity, accountability, and encouragement would help them do that. I certainly could help them too with that.
And I have to ask, what's it like to work with a bunch of attorneys? I know we can be a very difficult bunch to work with. What has it been like for you to work with attorneys as a large part of your practice?
Yeah, it's actually been great. I mean, the attorneys I work with who are in mastermind groups tend to be entrepreneurial. They tend to be fairly, collaborative, and when people are growing, like self-development, right? Like there's a lot of mindset work, right? Getting past limiting beliefs. When you're doing that, when you're experiencing growth, a lot of times you got to, 20x yourself to be able to 10x your business, right? But all that self-growth puts people in a positive state. They're nice to be around. And I've had a great experience with them. Now, the attorney is unique in that they're trained, to find the little problem, to find the discrepancy in law school and all that. And so a lot of times their minds are trained to find the problems. And sometimes they have trouble finding the good stuff. So some of that, there is a lot of kind of, mind work that sometimes you have to do to counterbalance that, or also to separate it out as your profession. So some people will come home and, they're given the third degree. It's like a trial when they're talking with their kids. Where were you? What time did you get? It's like, whoa, hold on, judge. Sometimes they have trouble separating that stuff out. But by and large, I've had a great experience. Highly intelligent people and great to work with.
I take that, and I hear you loud and clear. I know as somebody who has a foot in both real estate investing and the legal community, the attorney is always looking for the reason not to, the reason no, the reason why something is wrong. Whereas the people in the real estate sphere are always looking for the opportunity, what can be done, and the world is limitless. So there's a little bit of a culture clash going on in my own mind when I work through these competing industries.
Yes, 100%. You know what? Just the awareness of it, will serve you. Just an awareness of it, that there is that little lens difference, the awareness of it's going to help you to be kind of a more complete person. I think that's like the first step is the awareness of it. And then you can proactively move in whatever direction you want and begin to create the identity that you want, right? And the identity that you're looking for and the person that you want to become is possible. And it's important that you move in that direction of who you want to be. So I think that's great.
All right. So before we have you explain to everybody where they can find you or even engage your services, I do want to ask you the same 3 questions that we ask everybody who comes onto the podcast. And I'll put you on the spot here. If you had to give a presentation on 30 minutes with no preparation whatsoever, what would that presentation be on?
Yeah, so I would do a presentation on this concept of Waiteba, what you think about, you bring about. And I did a TEDx talk about that, where you have to like take one idea and you can't talk for more than 12 to 18 minutes or something. The talk has to fall within that window. So I did do that. And I do think that's the biggest aha moment I had was the power of our minds to really shape our reality and the ability that we have. Most people are underutilizing the power of their mind. And so I hope the listeners will leave with that understanding that that's the most important thing. And really your reality, your physical reality is shaped by that lens, that the mind thoughts that you look through. It's like example, if I said to you, Rory, okay, today, I'm sorry to tell you, but today is going to be like the worst day of your life. And then you're like, oh no, don't tell me that, Blaine. And then you go out and you're almost hit by a car. And then you say, oh gosh, Blaine was right. I was almost hit by the car. I was almost killed. And you're timid and you're fearful the whole day. And physically, your brain chemistry in your body, you're like, oh my gosh, it's something bad. It's going to be a bad day. And you're physically, scrunched down and afraid of the world. Now that same morning, I hand you a different lens and I say, Rory, I don't know why, but today's going to be one of the best days of your life. And then you go out, same exact thing. You're almost hit by the car, except now you say, Blaine was right. I'm saved. My life is spared. I was almost killed, but I'm not killed. And you're happy and your brain chemistry is totally different and you're exuberant and you're fired up about the world and what does the universe have for me? And I'm still here, And it's a totally different experience physically, chemically, in your brain. And all it was that lens that you're looking through, right? So anyway, that I think is the most powerful thing that when I take my mind shower in the morning, I really make sure I clean off the lens and choose the lens I want, because that's dictating the physical reality later.
I agree with you. And I think, the example you give is this can be the best day ever or the worst day ever. But the truth is things kind of fall in between. And one of the most empowering things that I can do for myself, and I fall off this wagon more than I should, is just the thought that I'm going to own my day. I am going to accomplish what I choose to accomplish today. And just having that thought, I think, is more empowering than anything. And it really makes a difference, because if you walk in and say, this is just going to be a difficult day, And then you're reactive to everything that comes along your way, and you don't move the ball forward in any of your own objectives.
Yeah, I agree 100%. That next day planning, right? Planning out the day, especially when you wake up. If that first like 30 to 60 minutes is automatic pilot, like you know what you're going to do, most people win the day, in that first 30 to 60 minutes. And if you know that, then you got some of the stuff done maybe for you personally, like people have a little morning routine or something where you can say, look, I've already won the day. Here we are. I've already won the day when I go to bed because I've kind of mapped it out. So it is kind of my day. Now, life throws you some curveballs and circumstances, but you know what? That's not every day. That's more the rarity than, my days get hijacked, but not very often.
The second question we ask everybody is, what's something that happened to you early in your life or career that affects how you work today?
Yeah, I mean, I would just go back to that story of my son. It kind of gave me the cold shoulder, and that night, I did kind of remember both my parents worked, and my brother, a lot of times he wasn't home when I got home from school and I'd come into the empty house. It was kind of like scary, so anyway, all those memories flooded back, but that clarifying decision, right? Made the clarifying decision to be the work from home dad, that definitely changed kind of the trajectory of my life.
And that's something, I mean, you said a little bit more poignantly with that moment that your son just kind of gave you the cold shoulder. We've heard that from a number of people where the realization of why they're doing this in the first place. They might be successful in their business endeavors, but they wanted to be there for their family, their spouse, their community. And what they were pursuing was actually taking them farther and farther away from their real motivation. So thank you for that. Finally, what's something that you're watching, listening to, or reading these days?
Yes, I read the book Think and Grow Rich, once a year. So this is the time of the year that I'm doing that. But then also, I will say that I've listened to this one program 50 times or more than 50 times now, and it's Jim Rohn's Power of Ambition. And so Jim Rohn's Power of Ambition, that's probably my favorite program. That's my go-to. A lot of times people have that head trash. And I like to say the solution to pollution is dilution. Right. And so you think of that science beaker with the dark liquid and you pour more and more water, it gets clearer, clearer, and so the solution to pollution is dilution. And I like to pour in the positive. And that's the program that I use to kind of pour into myself every day. So I think that's probably my favorite thing. And I'm kind of, listening to that kind of over and over. It's available on Audible. Yeah, you probably can find it on YouTube because it's an older program.
All right, thank you. And all right, so for all of our listeners who are out there who want to find out more about you, see some of the longer form work that you've done, or even engage you, how can they find you?
Yeah, the easiest thing is just go to BlaineTEDx.com. So BlaineTEDx.com. There you can opt in for the TEDx talk that I did. You get a transcript, you get to watch it. And in that talk, I talk about Waiteba, but more importantly, I talk about a practical way that you could take what I call your bring about statement, whatever you're trying to bring about in your life, could be a goal, personality trait, and remind your subconscious mind of it about 100 times a day with no work on your part. So anyway, that's in there, but then we'll also be connected. You'll have my email, you'll get the articles I do. And if I can help anybody or serve anybody in any way, I'd love to do it.
All the ways you can get in touch with Blaine are in the show notes for this episode. So if you didn't catch it while watching or listening, it's all available for you. Thank you, Blaine, so much for being on the podcast with us. My name is Rory Gill, the broker owner of Next Home Titletown, nexthometitletown.com in Boston, Massachusetts, and Urban Village Legal, urbanvillagelegal.com. Thank you, Blaine, so much.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. And I'll leave you with this. The bad news is time flies. The good news, you're the pilot. So pilot well, my friends.
All right. Thank you.
This has been the Real Estate Law Podcast. Because real estate is more than just pretty pictures, and law goes well beyond the paperwork and courtroom arguments. We're powered by Next Home Titletown, Greater Boston's progressive real estate brokerage. More at nexthometitletown.com. And Urban Village Legal, Massachusetts Real Estate Counsel, serving savvy property owners, lenders, and investors. More at urbanvillagelegal.com. Today's conversation was not legal advice, but we hope you found it entertaining and informative. Discover more at realestatelawpodcast.com. Thank you for listening.